Hey now, this is Colin from the Sound As podcast, back with a little solo episode. When we last spoke, we were talking about Bruce Springsteen's album Nebraska. At the time, we had intended to also talk about the film Deliver Me From Nowhere, which is about the making of Nebraska, but we kind of ran out of time and we hadn't all watched it, so I'm just going to fill in the gaps here. So since the last episode, I've also finished reading the Deliver Me From Nowhere book, so I'll touch upon that and a little bit of background about the film and the book. So hit the theme. So 2025's Deliver Me From Nowhere is a Bruce Springsteen biopic of sorts, or biopic. Now, I don't know what you think about biopics, whether you love them or you find them a little bit cheesy. I've got kind of mixed feelings on them. I do enjoy them. I enjoy, going to the cinema and hearing, all the songs. I do enjoy that aspect of an actor, doing the impression. In a way, it's almost a bit like Joe Longthorne or Freddie Starr. They'll get an Oscar for it, but by that token, Freddie Starr should have got an Oscar for his Mick Jagger impression. So that bit's interesting, like Jamie Foxx in Ray or Joaquin Phoenix in Joaquin Phoenix and Walk the Line. So I think they're roles that actors like to do so they can completely become the character and, learn to play whatever instrument the person plays and, sing exactly like them. Now, Deliver Me From Nowhere's similar to that in a respect. So it begins with Bruce Springsteen just coming off the River Tour, and you see the dude playing him on stage with his Telecaster, and he's doing this kind of Bruce, performance, and he's got his jaw stuck out, like Bruce does, just to kind of sell the Bruce thing. It's a really good performance, and apparently he's singing and playing, and it's really good. But then after that, the film kind of takes a step back, and it's a little bit more introspective and quiet, and it's a little bit more interesting. So after the River Tour, Bruce basically went back to New Jersey to a house he just bought, I think, and he was just working on some songs. He bought a 4-track tape recorder, and it was just him and a roadie who would work the recorder, and they were recording some basic tracks as demos for the next album, and that's basically where the film really starts. So I think the film gets a lot of things right. So I think the casting's really good. So the guy you've got playing Bruce is called Jeremy Allen White, and there definitely is a resemblance to him, and he does the kind of brooding, quiet kind of Bruce Springsteen part really well, and his performances when he's singing and recording, I think they're very good. Now there's also a dude that plays his manager, John Landau. Now this guy was in a TV series called Succession. I've never actually seen it, but he's really good. He's got like a kind of weird way of speaking. It's very kind of a little bit like, he looks a bit like Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Big Day Off, but he sounds like Dustin Hoffman and Rain Man, if that makes sense. I think it's Jeremy Strong's the guy's name, and a lot of the scenes are around him and Bruce's discussions about, you know, where he's going next in his career and what to do with these songs, and that part of it's quite interesting as well. There's a little kind of romantic subplot, which is Bruce getting involved with a kind of small time girl, and she's a single parent, and it's that kind of, you know, thing. He's like, "Oh, I don't want to get too close to you, honey, because I'm just going to hurt you." And he basically, that just kind of fizzles out. So I don't know if that was, I mean, she's really good as well, but it just seems, I don't know, it seems a little bit tacked on. The places that is strongest is the kind of stuff about how the album Nebraska came about, you know, and I don't know, it seems quite niche. So you'll see Bruce Springsteen, he's, you know, at home and he's watching TV one night, and the film Badlands by Terrence Malick comes on, and he's absorbed in it, and he's starting to write Nebraska. The stuff with his father's really good as well. So his father's played by Stephen Graham. So he seems to play every father at the moment. He's in a lot of stuff. He's really exposed at the moment. But to be fair, he does a pretty good job. So the father, at first you think it's just going to be a kind of like, I don't know, like Ike Turner in What's Love Got to Do with It, just a total villain. But, you know, you see that he's abusive, but there's a lot of nuance there. So you see him taking Bruce to the cinema to see Night of the Hunter, you know, the film with Robert Mitchum, and, you know, and you start to see that there's mental illness behind his father's behaviour, and, you know, he's hearing voices later in the film, and Bruce has got that sense of responsibility, and it all kind of ties in a little bit to the lyrics in Nebraska, you know, that thing about a man who turns his back on a family ain't no friend of mine. And like, he does have a sense of responsibility, and his parents are out there on the West Coast, and he's back in Jersey. He's kind of cut off, and he's isolated and alone, and I think that part of the movie is very, very good. And also the geeky stuff about the recording of the album, and the stuff about the 4-track, and how they go from it being a demo to then trying to record the songs with the E Street Band, and not really getting the same feel, and not capturing the spirit of the songs that he got when he thought he wasn't making a record. So I think there's a lot to that. Like the fact, like he even says the reason he's got a roadie and not a producer in his bedroom with him is he says, "I don't want a producer judging me." So, like, I think there was just that feeling. It's almost like he's completely on his own. This guy, he must have been very comfortable with, and Guy probably deserves a lot of credit, and he doesn't really get it for, you know, staying out of the way, but getting really good takes. And, you know, it sounds fantastic, the album, consider what it's recorded on. So he did a good job, you know, making sure the takes were, you know, as near perfect as possible. And then it essentially evolves into, like, Bruce suddenly, well, not suddenly, but gradually getting the idea that, like, I can't recapture this, so I just want to release the songs exactly as they are, as they're recorded on a 4-track. And it's just how the manager, John Landau, deals with it, how the record company deals with it, and all that kind of jazz. So I kind of think that both in the book, well, more in the film actually, it's painted as commercial suicide almost. That, oh my God, you're gonna release this 4-track tape, but I mean, there's a tradition among rock musicians and singer-songwriters where they have a really successful album and then they take a step back. So it's not really that much of a departure. Like Neil Young had a really big hit with the album Harvest and After the Gold Rush around that time, and then he followed that up with some kind of fairly, well, kind of very unpalatable albums. So he did an album called Time Out of Mind, which just was recorded live. Had songs about Charlie Manson and, you know, just really slow meditative songs. There's a song called Ambulance Blues, and it's a weird album, and it's almost like he was willfully, you know, just like taking a step back. I think he did feel that, you know, he was becoming too much of a superstar, and he didn't like that level of attention and those expectations that he would become the Harvest guy, the acoustic guy, James Taylor kind of stuff. I think before even James Taylor was big. Lou Reed, he did an album called Metal Machine Music, which, I mean, that's really mental. So I don't know what stage that came, but it was definitely after the Transformer album with Bowie, that Bowie produced. And same thing, basically, where it's just really weird, like guitar feedback and, you know, just a couple hours of noise, you know, industrial kind of guitar sounds. So I think there is this tradition of, you know, if a singer-songwriter or someone that's quite critically well respected becomes too popular, that they'll put out a weird kind of passion project. And I think that's still the case. The book does a better job of covering that, and it goes into whether or not it's a strategy, you know, whether this is by design or whether it did evolve naturally. Now, when at the point they started trying to record the songs from Nebraska, you'll see in the film that they've already got in the can, you know, Born in the USA and a couple of other, like maybe 7 songs, as it turns out, it says in the book, that would end up in some form on the Born in the USA album. So I think that plays in when he's saying to John Landau, look, I want it released as it is, no kind of overdubs, no tweaks, no trying to fix it, that John Landau knew he had Born in the USA in his back pocket, basically. So, and it also makes the argument that if you'd gone straight from The River, you know, out Hungry Heart, to then Dancing in the Dark, it would almost seem a little bit samey. You know, they're not radically different. So it's almost like, you know, when farmers rotate the field and they'll not grow something in the field for a year, so that the harvest the next year's even better. And I think there is an element, whether or not by design, that definitely worked. It's also worth bearing in mind, this album, Nebraska, sold 4.7 million like records, and, you know, 3 albums back, Bruce Springsteen were killed for that. It was number 3 or number 2 on the US charts. Atlantic City was released as a single in the UK and Europe. It was his first music video. So MTV had just started around about this time. And that's something the book gets into a little bit more. There are some kind of cultural landmarks, to give you a place of, where you are in time. So, like in the film, like John Landau is talking about the production on Phil Collins's In the Air Tonight when Bruce walks in at one stage, how that's like a cool sound. And, that's the kind of sound you start to hear on Born in the USA. So that gives you a feeling that Nebraska's a really big departure. You also see Bruce listening to this duo called Suicide and a song called Frankie Teardrop. And you really hear in that song that kind of overarching kind of darkness, and you hear that kind of same whoop that he does in State Trooper, the whoop. That's not really what it's like, but it's like, that the kind of whoops you hear, the kind of anguished whoops you hear on Nebraska, and even the kind of echo that's all over it, you weirdly hear in this band Suicide, who were a kind of left field kind of synthesizer duo, and so it's interesting to see that. It doesn't cover, like, I've always thought Bruce Springsteen, he's a very, literate and cine-literate kind of songwriter. So the album that most kind of reminds me of Nebraska that came later in his career is The Ghost of Tom Yode. And I think that actually got me into reading Steinbeck. So it's just basically, I think it was actually came about off the back of him watching the John Ford version of Grapes of Wrath, where Tom Yode is this, kind of Woody Guthrie style kind of hero of the oppressed. It's about the migration from Oklahoma to Los Angeles and, well, to California anyway, of the Okies. And that really got me into Steinbeck. I love Steinbeck now. So he's one of those writers, and apparently he was really into a writer called Flannery O'Connor. And that's a writer that I haven't actually managed to catch up with yet. I know that Stephen King's most recent book of short stories, he did a story that he was basically trying to emulate her, and it's almost like he was trying to write in her style. It's like a lost Flannery O'Connor short story. So the book's really interesting from that perspective. I like all the stuff as well about the technology around about the time. So it was a weird time where CD had just been introduced, but at the same time the Sony Walkman had come out relatively recently, so cassette really took off. So cassette, I think, had been around for a while, but the fact that people could, take their albums out and about with them and listen to them to a personal level, and that kind of, I think, would be in Nebraska's favour, because it's a very kind of personal album. So all that stuff's really fascinating. It's a bit niche. I don't know if anyone else, like, this movie is the Venn diagram of what you have to like to really enjoy it. Have to be a really big Bruce fan, probably. You have to like 4-track recorders, which is, I don't know, fairly niche in 2025, I would imagine. And, and biopics. So, like, all three of those things. And so I think that's a pretty narrow category. But to get made, and Bruce being what he was, there's a bit at the end of the book where they're talking about the making of the film, or, getting it into development. And, like, he had to kind of, the writer, Warren Zanes, and the director, Scott Cooper, almost had to come at it very kind of gentle, with John Landau and Bruce, because they weren't going to do a film like Walk the Line or Bohemian Rhapsody, that covered his whole career. So I think this was probably quite a good angle to get the film made, and people are going to go and see it, and see it before they realise it's really about a 4-track tape recorder and just one specific album. So I don't know how it was marketed. Performances are great. Yeah, but all the 4-track stuff I absolutely love. I had 2 4-track tape recorders as a teenager, and I was even in a lo-fi band. So me and a couple other guys, we would pretend we were rock stars at the weekend and record these lo-fi albums. And we kind of went the direction of, well, it's going to sound lo-fi anyway, so we almost played up. We even added hiss. So we had we would add samples of a record player hissing and crackling. So there was plenty of hiss already, but we would add hiss. And there was this thing in England, this tape record label, and this would be mid to late 90s. This tape label called Bacchanalian Revel, and the idea behind it was you would record your lo-fi masterpiece, your album, and you would send them the master, and they would have this little mail order catalogue, and your album would have a serial number, and people would order it, and you didn't get paid in money, you got paid in tapes for other artists. And I don't think it ran at a profit, but it was an interesting thing, and there was a little fanzine. So it was a bit like playing fantasy football, but playing fantasy pop star. So you would record your album and it would get reviewed in this little fanzine. And they had an Italian wing as well. So I found this out years later, where I can't remember what the Italian wing was, but there was tapes getting sent out in Italy, and there was little charts, and it was great fun. So I'll maybe stick a couple of songs on the end. But my experience of 4-track was a little bit more social. So we would do that, and it would be the 3 of us, and we would smoke a joint and watch a film. And, I can remember getting that red light fever. You'd go to record and you'd be a little bit stoned and you'd just be giggling. And it was, I've got really, really fond memories of that. And then listening to the tape on your Walkman, a kind of rough mix on the way up the road afterwards. It was good time. So I might drop in a little song. The band was called Vinyl Bill, and it just kind of fell apart. But yeah, Bacchanalian Revel, we'll have to do a podcast on that and see if anyone's still alive that maybe ran it. They do have a Bandcamp now, and someone seems to have remastered all these old tapes. So I kind of pulled my songs off it, and someone seems to have reduced the hiss a little bit, and some of the songs are on YouTube. So yeah, there seems to be a wee bit of a very, 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 very small following for it. So anyway, that is my thoughts on Deliver Me From Nowhere, the film and the book. Keep on keeping on. Increase the peace. See you later.